meeting to order. Thank you, council, for being here. Thanks to everyone else for being present as well. Do roll call, please.
Mayor Ronald,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Perry,
Here.
Councilmember Caffey,
Here.
Councilmember Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Oliveris, Councilmember Starnes,
Here.
Councilmember Melton.
Here.
You would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would please, Councilman Melton is going to do an invocation for us.
Had hoped to do this one with one of our students at the start of school year, but Mayor Rodham asked if we could have one tonight. So with the start of the school year in mind, here is a back-to-school prayer for us. Dear Heavenly Father, please put a hand of protection this school year on all the children, teachers, and staff. Watch over them, protect them, love them. We thank you, God, for all that you do. Amen.
Thank you, sir, for that prayer. Now we'll move to item 4, conduct a workshop on the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The budget that you have before you is the new and updated version of what we're proposing. Under the de minimis column, that actually reflects a potential tax rate of 85 cents, which is a little bit below the de minimis rate of 0.860376. But that total revenue that we're projecting in the general fund provides for a new position here at City Hall, a new position in Public Works. It includes raises for the police department. One of the things after the last workshop that we had that we added in was $25,000 for community policing and $15,000 for new recruit incentives. We will be looking at a number of different options in that regard. Currently, if a recruit comes in with at least 3 years of experience and fully certified, then we would provide them with a $5,000 sign-on bonus. If they come in without that certification and have just graduated from the academy, it's $2,500. In addition, I'm going to be presenting to council a proposal to provide some housing subsidy to new officers for the first 2 years that they start out here. It's not going to be a whole lot, but it'll be something I think that will help increase the interest in law enforcement here. And I've as I've gone out and I spoke to Rotary and on the radio, and every chance I get, people that I talk to have just been promoting the career of law enforcement because of the fact that with the new salaries that we have included in the budget, we have a starting officer coming in will be paid at $56,700 a year, which is not a bad starting salary for somebody, and that's following. We actually will pay if we recruit them and send them to the academy. We actually pay to send them to the academy, and offer them a $18 an hour stipend, basically while they're going to the academy, which is 16 weeks, about 14 to 16 weeks while they're in the academy. They graduate and join on come on the force. There is a $2,500 sign-on bonus. And that money that we're paying to have them come in requires that they make a 3-year commitment. 2 years, excuse me.
3 for certified.
I'm sorry?
3-year commitment for certified officer, 2-year commitment, I'm sorry.
So if they come in and we send them through the academy, we're asking them to make a 2-year commitment to the city and a 3-year if they're getting that $5,000 sign-on bonus. And that would go for the housing subsidy as well. So that is the raise proposed for the police department. I think 4% is being budgeted for the balance of employees throughout the city. Is it 4 or 4.5%, Barbara? 4%. And it includes all of the capital projects that we've talked about in the past.
Tim, last week we talked, Gerald, or y'all, it might have been last week, about the men that were, going for the certificates, classes, and if they did pass, they would get a raise, is that correct? Something came up like that.
So, yeah, so also included in the budget is, for the utility employees that you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes, so anybody right now, that gets hired on, they're at a certain rate. If they, once they pass their Class D license, then there is a, what's the rate? There's a certificate pay that they receive for being, holding that Class D license.
Okay,
Gerald, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, well, the starting pay would be 17. When they get their D license, they'll get $1.50. When we get the C license, they'll get another $2.50.
On
And-
top of that?
we just had 2 guys pass, I remember we got a
There's
C
some
and a
good
C.
news to share regards to that. Gerald, you want to share that, please? Because now we are in compliance where we should be.
Well, good, that didn't take long.
We have not only that, but we have 3 passed. One of them passed today, a D wastewater license. So we've had in the last 2 weeks, 3 gentlemen pass their 2 Ds and 1 C.
Well, good.
And we got other guys chomping at the bit to go take the class and the D test. So we've got a lot of movement, more than it's been in this area for quite some time. And everybody's fighting it, and we're making progress now. I appreciate y'all's help.
No, it's good.
Well, Gerald, I want to say thank you for hearing my concerns and council's concerns and taking action on this and getting something done about it. I sincerely appreciate it.
Yeah, all right.
So I mean, we still do have a couple of vacancies in the Public Works Department, and then there's one more that's being added. So those do tend to turn over a little bit more frequently than other city employees, but we'll work hard to fill those so we can perform up to your expectations and residents' expectations. I've also included in the handout, last week, the MDD passed their budget, so you have a copy of that. That will also be considered when we have the public hearing next week, and ask council to act on the budget and the tax rate. So this is, again, based on the 85-cent tax rate.
And is the MDD budget something we would need to vote on tonight, or is that next week as well?
That's next week as well.
Okay.
They vote on it along with our budget.
Okay,
It basically becomes incorporated into our budget.
all right.
Does anybody have any questions about the budget itself specifically?
I have a couple. I shared with just a few of you, and I know that not every message needs to have a reply, but I was talking with an East Side pastor who wondered about, with us having ongoing trouble hiring full-time officers, would it be possible to perhaps look into retired law enforcement officers that live in the area who might be willing to do something half-time? And so I don't know if that's not a thought worth consideration. I take no offense if it's not, but I just was wondering if that's something that can be out there if we continue to struggle.
Yes, it's a possibility for a part-time police officer position, yes. It's not something we currently do, but certainly look.
So do we have reserve police officers? Do we carry any?
We do. They don't really help out a whole lot, though. We don't depend on them at all. Got 2 retirees that, I'm trying to get back on the streets.
Basically, you just carrying their certifications, chief.
Basically, for the most part. We can call them in for special events or something, they'll help out from time to time with traffic control or something like that. But that's about all they would do. But certainly part-time, if we had an interest in that, I mean, I would certainly look into it for sure. It doesn't hurt my feelings to do it, I'll tell you that.
The second, if I can move on,
Yes.
is I understand the realities of our community and the tax base and everything, and so I assume that what you're presenting is a pretty lean budget.
That's correct.
So it's always good to have some fat, because every now and then you have to feed off that fat. And I'm just curious, do we have any elements in our budget where there is potential fat should something come up that is unexpected?
Well, every year you have you budget a certain amount for expense. But we budget employees at 100% with no vacancies for the entire budget. So that by itself creates some fat, because it's never happened in my career where you don't lose some employees, and there's always an overlap where that position is vacant for a certain period of time before it gets refilled, and that creates additional funding potentially in the budget to move around. I don't know that there's a lot of, Barbara would be able to answer this a little bit more if there's any areas. There is a contingency fund in, isn't there?
On the water side, Randy Holly established a contingency fund before we had the 105 days of reserve. And so that'll give about a little over $100,000 a year. But no, in general, we run a very lean budget. But as Mr. Kelty said, when you have vacancies, that provides a buffer.
And then additionally, there's also reserve balances that are unbudgeted that in an emergency could potentially, if something came up, I could come back to council for a budget amendment to move some of those reserve funds into the budget for something that was unforeseen. And that reserve fund, and that'll be part of, I'll pass that out for everybody next week when we have that, but there is quite a bit of reserve funding available throughout all the grants, over a couple $1 million throughout the general and enterprise fund. Some of it is restricted, specific use, but generally it does give us funding availability if something comes up that is urgent and necessary.
Did you say that there was an additional contingency above and beyond the 105-day reserve?
Yes, sir. It was established before there was a reserve fund.
Okay.
Am I allowed?
Or
What was the
workshop
tax
again.
rate before, which is now going to 85?
8 point,
0.8015.
Sorry.
0.8015. Is that right, 0.8015? Tim, do you have anything else to share, sir?
no, sir.
Council?
on the housing incentive that you're looking into for police or whatever, as far as I'm concerned, it's any kind of recruitment within the city. It doesn't have to be just for police. Use it however feel necessary to fill positions within the city. But very important that it stays in the city, that whoever we're subsidizing is turning tax dollars back over into this community and not a landlord that's from somewhere else.
And I am looking at it from a public safety standpoint. What I talked with the chief about potentially doing was for the first year, a $300 a month stipend for housing if they purchase a house within the city. If they rent an apartment within the city, it would be less than that. And then step it down the second year. But I want to put it together, actually a formal written policy for council to consider. I'm just saying that in the budget, we put $15,000 to fund such a program.
Good.
And I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Perry's input regarding making sure the money that's generated from that stipend stays in our city.
Would you prefer that I not have the rental reimbursed?
There are citizens of Rockdale who are tax-paying citizens that own rental property in Rockdale.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think if it's no matter if it's paid to a citizen who owns rental property in Rockdale, that money's going right back in the city, in my opinion.
One of the reasons I had it differentiated between it buying a property here in Rockdale and renting a property, I think that there's more of a commitment by that employee that we're recruiting to come here, if they actually buy property, if they live here and they own property rather than just, having a one-year lease on a rental property, that they could then leave and go somewhere else at the end of a year pretty easily.
And let me clarify, when I said owner, it doesn't in my opinion, it doesn't have to be owned by somebody that lives in Rockdale, but it has to be in the city limits of Rockdale so that there's tax revenue generated one way or another within that stipend.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, because I misunderstood.
The housing stipend would only be within the city of Rockdale, and not out of the county.
Within
Correct.
city limits.
Not two counties over, within the city limits of Rockdale only.
Correct.
Agreed.
I have to live here, then they get to live here too.
Any other comments, questions, follow-up from council? Tim,
No, sir.
Barbara, do you have anything you? No?
Any additional changes that you'd like to see made before the public hearing?
So what do we have to,
Now?
we just workshop tonight,
It's
right?
just workshop, but our next,
First
we
reading
have
will
a
be
couple
it.
of action items.
But our first reading, or first, has to come twice, right?
Well,
Actually, one of the things that I've identified in the charter, it says for the budget, adoption of the budget, if it's unanimous, then it only has to be, by the entire council, all 7 of you, it only has to be read at one meeting, so it can be adopted on the 12th. If it's not unanimous, then it has to have 2 readings. There's another section of the charter that the mayor doesn't vote, except on the budget, it calls for the mayor to vote on the budget itself.
And is that unanimous among people that are here, or?
Unanimous, all 7, has to receive 7 votes. So I did have Shannon call, and
Okay,
all of you have said that you'll be here next Tuesday.
okay.
okay. So these, item 5, action items, item 5A, I guess we'll move on to that unless council has any other questions in regards to the workshop. No? So we'll move to action item 5A, consider and take any necessary action resulting from the workshop on the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
And there, as far as I know, that there is not any action that I'm requesting. other
So
than
we're not
5B.
requesting any action on that?
Other than 5B and 5C.
Okay. So no action is being requested at this time by Tim. Is there any action being requested by any council on item 5A?
Will you have those policies? Do you think you'll have? No, shut up, never mind.
Okay. So we'll move down to item 5B, which is going to require a roll call vote. Consider and take any necessary action to adopt a proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2024-2025.
So in regard to this, prior to adopting the tax rate, council has to adopt a proposed tax rate that will be discussed at the public hearing. There's a public hearing on the budget and the proposed tax rate prior to the adoption of the budget. So what we are recommending is what I'm going to go ahead and recommend is the 0.85. That doesn't lock the council into adopting the 0.85. It can't go any more than that. So, you could, originally I was going to suggest the de minimis rate, which is 0.860376 as the proposed rate. But since I'm not suggesting that we consider that, the 8.5 is what I am recommending as the proposed tax rate. That just is a motion. There's no ordinance or resolution attached to that. And that just means you can't go over that in consideration of the final tax rate.
So at this time, action item 5B is going to require a motion and then a roll call vote, if someone so chooses to make a motion.
Where is it? I'll make a motion that we enter into the roll call vote for the fiscal year 2024-2025
Would you
budget.
please read the whole thing that's
If
on
I can
that?
find it.
It's in
There-
the record.
There's not,
Is it this one?
this one, correct?
5B?
Yes.
This, are you talking about this? This is for the adoption.
For the-
I don't know.
You talking about the recommendation on 5B? Says
This
staff
is,
recommends.
this is not the right one. So the motion I would be asking for is that council take action on a proposed tax rate of 85 cents, not to exceed 85
Not to
cents.
exceed 85 cents. And you need a vote on that, right?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we take a vote on the tax rate,
Proposed tax rate.
proposed tax rate, not to exceed 85 cents
I'll second that motion.
for the fiscal year 2024-25.
Scott, that was you, Starnes, Councilmember Starnes. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion?
Clarification, this is not finalizing it.
This is not finalized, that's
We
correct.
have questions that come to mind in the coming week.
Yes. You'll still have potentially 2 opportunities.
If I don't show up next week, you get 2
If Ray
opportunities.
shows up next week and he votes yes, then it's over with.
I'm going to ask Shanna to
Everybody needs to
do the roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Perry,
Yay?
Councilmember Caffey,
Here.
Councilmember
Okay.
Walker,
Yes.
Councilmember Oliveris, absent, Councilmember Melton,
Yes.
and Councilmember Starnes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Action item 5C, consider and take any action, necessary action to schedule a date for a public hearing on the proposed tax rate and proposed annual operating budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
So the local government code requires that council set a date for a public hearing on the tax rate and the budget. The public hearing gives the taxpayers the opportunity to express their views. The final budget and tax rate may not be adopted until after the public hearing is held, as required by law. So right now, we are looking at a public hearing for next Monday, the 12th. And I will tell you, because of time requirements to get it published, to get it advertised in time for next meeting, we are looking at the 12th as our public hearing. I would just ask council to take action to memorialize that.
So, Tim, what I heard you say is you would prefer that if that motion is made, that public hearing motion be made for Monday, the 12th
Yes, at 5:30.
at 5:30. I'll entertain a motion from council at this time.
I'll make a motion that we set the budget hearing, or not workshop,
Budget,
public hearing for the budget on, and tax rate for Monday, August 12th at 5:30.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Tim, council, before I adjourn, is there anything else that needs to be discussed tonight relative to this special meeting agenda?
Great job to all of those who've been putting a lot of work into this. I'm not one of those. That's why we rely on Tim. Thank you for your hard work and the council staff that was a part of it. You guys did awesome, and thank you for your hard work in getting this done.
Council, any other items of discussion? We are now adjourned at 5:54 PM.